When I do this, I want you guys as loud as you can to say orange. 1, 2, 3. Orange! I can't hear you. 1, 2, 3. Orange! You took your fangs and you injected your words. My defense flew away like a cluster of birds. As time went on, your poison took its toll, and my muscles began to crumble as if I was old. My mind no longer focused on the task at hand, but on the snake that poisoned this man. I died slowly as you waited for your meal. But you messed up and you left the field. I cheated death, or so I thought. You wrapped your body around my heart tight. You kept kissing me sweetly into the night. You squeezed tightly around my soul. We held each other when we were cold. My pulse began to fade and then die at that point. You then swallowed me whole. Body, heart, and soul. Hi, my name is Damont, aka Mr. Orange Live. That is my stage name. I'm a poet and author of 2 poetry books, My Poem, My Riddle, and A Touch of Orange. I am also 2018 Poet of the Year, 2019 Rhode Island Mentor of the Year, and today I will be welcoming you guys to Poetry 101 with Mr. Orange Live. Welcome. Today I will be discussing some very, very, very important things. I'm going to do my best to break down poetry in its most simplest form, so those who want to write better or those who want to take it to the next level can be able to do so. Poetry for me has always been my first love, always will be. I started writing when I was young, and as I grew up, my handwriting, as you can see, is pretty bad. It's legible. But I began writing more and more to improve it, and instead of necessarily improving it, I began to soak in all this information in poetry. So I want to start by saying that there's 52 different types of poetry, and probably actually even more. But I'm only going to talk about, again, I'm going to break it down to the most simplest form. The very first thing I want to talk about that you'll see that's very common in a poem is called repetition. So who uses repetition? A lot of different poets use repetition for different things. Artists use repetition as such as in songs and in hooks. You'll see that a lot, especially in writing. It's good to use it because you want to emphasize a certain point. Where you'll see it used at is mostly on stage, though. It's not really used so much in, I want to say, contests, written contests, but you will see repetition used a lot in performance pieces or in performance poetry. You'll also see it used sometimes in rap battles. You'll see it used sometimes to drive home a point in comedy when they do comedy, and AKA stand-up. So the reason why it's used, the reason why repetition, 1, 2, 3. So the reason why repetition is used is because it brings home a point that needs to be made, and you can curve off that point and hit different topics that you want to talk about within that one point. So you want to hit different topics within that one point. So we're going to take a couple of minutes. I want you guys to pause this video and get a pen and paper. Let's pause the video and do that now, please. I want you guys to write down the word repetition, AKA, to make it even more simpler, just repeat. You're just repeating the same phrase or sentence over and over and over again. Its use again is to drive home a point. So we're going to write about repetition. So we're going to write about repetition. How it is used in poetry, you can use it in the first line as an opening line, and then every stanza, you can repeat that same line. Or you can use it in the last line and repeat the same word, echoing out. Or you can repeat a whole phrase or a sentence structure, such as in a hook or song. Those are the most common uses for repetition. Some of the best poets out there have used it, such as Maya. I'm quite sure Langston Hughes, Negro Speaks of Rivers, is a very famous one that used it. I'm going to sit and show you my first book, My Poem, My Riddle. If you guys want a copy, you can get it on Amazon or search my name, Damont Combs. You'll find it online. mrorangelive.com. You can purchase it there. You will need a copy because I'm going to break down some points here using my poetry specifically to drive home some of these points. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you two poems that used repetition in different ways. I like to say that we're on a car, or we're in a car, and we're going on this highway you call poetry. And it's a journey. You don't know where you're going yet, but you know that you need to put on your creative cap, AKA you have to use your creative engine, and you're going to use it at different speeds and in different ways. So you do want to get creative with the way that these things are used. You can use them in many different forms, depends on how you use them. I do encourage that. So just take an example of what and how I use it in my own poetry and apply it to yours. So when I'm done reading this poem, I want you guys to begin writing your very first poem right off the bat using repetition. So it's very simple. I want you guys to pick a topic. Pick one topic that's something that means something to you, that matters to you, and I want you guys to start out with that one line that grabs the attention, that steals away and it drives home. And then what you do is you break that down into different sections and in different points. And then you want to hit those points throughout the poem. So I'm just going to read to you one of my poems from my book. My poem, My Riddle, is called This Upon That. Layers upon layers, loads upon loads, stacks upon stacks, try and climb that. Miles upon miles, roads upon roads, distances upon distances. Let's see if you can run that. Errors upon errors, mistakes upon mistakes, accidents upon accidents. Try and live that. How can you reach the top with no clear end? How will you travel not knowing how far it expands? How many more times is that error going to last on? It's until you learn. It's until you reach the top. It's until you get to the end. Then you will know you're finally done. You don't know how high up or how far life will run, how many actions you repeat. Just keep in mind that the impossible is a possible feat. So this upon that uses actually word by word, layering the repetition on very, very thick and then hitting different viewpoints as you saw. Whereas in this particular poem, this is absurd, outrageous. This is absurd, outrageous. Words can't describe it. I shake my fist at it. I search the world and can't find it. The four corners I'm allowed to walk, but an addict should know what time the store closes. This is absurd, outrageous. My sixth sense craves it. It's like a drinker who wants a sip. I want to lose control when the sixth sense hits. It's like defying gravity when doing a flip without it. I'm losing my grip. This is absurd, outrageous. I'm stuck with anger like metal fading with rust. I feel weak against the force that drives my life, giving my life meaning. Coffee cake is the cause of this poem's strife. So I used repetition differently in that poem. I actually used this is absurd, outrageous, repetitively hitting different points like I mentioned before. And layers upon layers, I use it differently because I layered the repetition on. So you guys go ahead and you guys take a couple of minutes to write your poem using repetition and the topic. Thank you guys so much. Please check out the next video where we're going to explore a different topic, dive right directly into the most simplistic form using poetry as that avenue. Thank you guys for going on this journey with me, and I will see you guys very, very soon. And hey, we're here at Stillwater Books in Pawtucket, one of the pillars of the writing community. How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Here's my book right here. It's called Damont Combs Presents a Touch of Orange. It is currently in Stillwater Books. I also have my first book here, my poem, My Riddle, right here. Hey guys, so I'm just simply going to talk to you guys about the historical beginnings during this segment, or I'm going to talk to you about my own personal experience with this particular topic during this segment. Now that we got through all the technical aspects, I'm going to do it in under 5 minutes or less. So hey guys, welcome. So my experience with repetition. My experience with repetition came about when I began to study those in the poetry field, and I saw them repeating certain lines. One of the most famous poems, Jill Scott Heron, he does a lot of The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. That's a repetition type poem. Also, that's just written, you know, that's more of a written type of technique. There's also an oral technique based upon Black history. And what that Black history dictates to us is it came from Africa and what is called the tradition of storytelling. Hey guys, I'm going to talk about repetition today. And what I'm going to discuss with repetition is the history of repetition and my own personal experience with it. So I discovered repetition during my time, you know, at Blue State, and I didn't really use it too much, but I did use it, but I didn't use it effectively the way that I can use it now. And I realized that the written form of repetition, they use it a lot in a lot of different poems. And it's a very effective tool in poetry if you want to emphasize a certain topic or if you want to emphasize something. So I realized that very early on, and I began to incorporate it. Another technique that it actually took me a lot longer to add to my repertoire but became a main staple is actually in the very beginning of this video. You guys see me standing in front of a crowd. Well, that was at Payne Park in Pawtucket, where I was opening the park with a poem. And one of the most famous poems that I do is called Orange. And in that is called, I use a technique called call and response. I'm going to do a whole masterclass on call and response. It is the oral, so the spoken technique for repetition, and its history dates back all the way to Africa during oral tradition through storytelling, and then it dates, if you come forward in history a little bit, to churches, and in the church, specifically the Black church, they had call and response to a crowd to engage that crowd. So its histories date back specifically to Black culture, and it's deeply ingrained there. And we take that call and response and we shift it over into the poetry realm, paying homage to our past. So that's my 5 minutes for you guys. That's just a little bit of history. That's just a taste of what the call and response is going to be about, the masterclass coming out later on. Thank you guys so much.